Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to 5 Minutes of Mindful Creativity. We're going to get started straight away. And for this session, we're going to be focusing on circles. Now, the reason why we are drawing circles is that circles are incredibly calming for the mind. So this whole series here will be focused not just on circles, but on different types of pattern and how you can use them just to take a few quiet moments in your mind. So this is about kind of drawing as meditation. It's about building up technical skill, but most of all, it's just about doing something that is super calming and soothing that will hopefully leave you feeling in a calmer state by the time you have finished. So the first activity or the first exercise, you can watch me doing it now, is just to draw some concentric circles. So I'm drawing with a 0.2 fine liner. This is a waterproof fine liner. And what I'm doing is, as I work my way around, working from the wrist, I'm trying to create bigger and bigger circles. And what does happen is that because circles are quite difficult to draw freehand, or can be challenging, your circles sort of change shape as they go along. So they get a bit more fried eggy, you might say, towards the outside. Now, by this moment, you may already be feeling a little bit of tightness in your wrists, but that is one of the points of this exercise, is to tune in your kind of hand-eye coordination. So what is happening with your hand compared to what's happening with your eye, but also to warm up those muscles in the wrist, which will help you have better technical control. So I'm just working my way through a series of concentric circles, nice and slowly, being aware of that space between the circles and using that to guide me and help me kind of keep these on track. So it takes a bit of practice, a little bit of focus, this, and that is exactly the reason why I've chosen this exercise. Ooh, I lost my focus then. Is because when we pour all of our attention into a slightly more tricky task like this, it just allows our minds to take a little break. So you can start off by working with just concentric circles with a fine liner. But you may also want to have a go at a brush pen as well and just see what the difference is. So this is the Pentel Art brush pen. And you've got to surrender a little bit of control here. I'm just going to get more ink going. Birds are fighting outside for the bird feeder. And have a go at that as well. Now, for those of you that are very precisely minded, you may find this a little bit too much. But the whole point of this exercise is to kind of recenter, bring yourself back to the center, just by doing these simple repetitive exercises. And patterns are very calming on the mind. They can be very meditative to create. So try not to be too judgmental of the outcome here. The whole idea is to focus on something non-representational and just allow your mind and your body to kind of focus in on something totally different. Now, if you feel like being a bit playful, you could add some lines to these. So you could start to connect your circles with some simple lines. You don't have to do that, but it's just another form of pattern making, and it can be quite nice. So that is just some concentric circles. Now we're going to think about other things we can do with a circle. So I'm just going back to my fine liner, and here we're thinking about, if I put one circle next to another, getting this kind of cellular shapes that mimic the kind of cell-like shapes in nature. And you can play around a little bit with the scale of these circles. So if you bunch lots of them together, try and avoid going fast. Our minds always want to race ahead and finish the task. But, you know, the calm moments are to be found within it and not when it's over. So play around with just creating kind of a new shape by allowing these kind of spreading cell-like forms to just grow out gently from the center. You don't have to have an idea of a destination. It doesn't need to look like anything in particular. but just playing around with the shape and the scale of those little circles. Okay, so that gives you another option with circles. You can also draw circles and overlap them ever so slightly. And you can overlap them in different ways, so you can have them really heavily overlapping, or you can have them just about connecting at the edge. Again, you could start quite large. You could slowly make your overlapping circles smaller. And then you can reverse it the other way. So here I could go quite big. And on the next one, I'll allow it to overlap a little bit smaller each time. Definitely got a bit of thumb cramp here. Little bit smaller each time. And just kind of starting to see how those little circles interact with each other. And then finally, I've got one more option for you, which is just to work with a slightly larger pen. So it doesn't have to be a Sharpie, but something that's got a slightly thicker end. You can either just twist and press and create a series of little dots. This is called stippling, I believe, in pencil form. Or you could start to grow those little circle shapes, so they start to create a pattern of their own. Again, just notice how much work your thumb is doing here, how much that lower part of your wrist is doing. So I suppose I'd do this just as a doodle, and I'd like you to kind of think about the kinds of things that you do doodle and why you doodle them in the next session. But also just as a really, really calming, non-representational exercise. You know, doodling just kind of allows your mind to wander and stray, and sometimes it actually focuses your thoughts and intentions just to be doing something physically and just let your mind be if that's what it wants to do. So you can start to play around with taking these circle shapes and creating new patterns from them. And when we work with pattern, we start to think about patterns in other aspects of our lives as well. So what patterns of behavior do I want to shift and change? Or what are the patterns in my life? Are there any recurring patterns that I'm happy with or ones that I may not be happy with? So as you're making these patterns, it might be nice to just allow your mind to wander into kind of, you know, the bigger meaning of patterns in your life, the bigger meaning of repetition, things that you'd like to keep in your life, because we are experiencing some massive changes as a species, and you know, patterns that you might be interested in breaking free of or letting go of, patterns that may no longer serve you, and just be a bit wild within this parameter. So I'm giving you circles as a sort of starting point, or I suppose a creative boundary. And can you take that now and create some patterns of your own? And just fill a page with these circular patterns, and then check in with me afterwards and see, how do you feel? How do you feel having completed this little sheet of circular patterns? What does that do to your mind? Does that give you a sense of kind of joy and achievement? Or do you find the task frustrating? Kind of use it to check in with yourself and think about how you might be feeling, how this kind of exercise might trigger you, you know. Is your mind kind of saying, this isn't proper art, I need to do something real and representational for it to be valid? You know, start to question kind of your patterns in terms of your approach to your own creativity as well, your patterns of thinking there. You know, what are your versions of success? What does success and creativity mean to you? And we'll kind of build up from this initial pattern making in our next tutorial. But I hope you've enjoyed just that little 5 minutes of mindfulness with me today. And I'd love, love, love you to tag me and to share some of the patterns that you've created based on this tutorial. Thank you.